Purview integration itself has got three parts to it. We can synchronize the business glossaries between the two tools. We can publish logical data models to Microsoft Purview, and we can publish physical models. And again, in this presentation, I'm going to explain what I mean by those three things. All of the integration with Purview is set up through a really easy to follow UI. Once you've connected to Purview and tested the connection, there's lots of options for how the two tools will work together, how they synchronize, which models synchronize, which properties are mapped to what. So let's browse our business glossary in Team Server. So I can browse for a term called party. And there it is. Read all about it. I can see various useful business metadata about party. Party is a little generic, so we can drill down through the taxonomy. We can find employee. Great. I can read all about employee. I can see what are the business terms are related to my employee. Employee holds a contract, performs a business process. I can see the attributes of an employee. All of this within the business glossary, all easy to understand. I can see the definition. I can see things like a PII flag, sensitivity level. So let's hop across to Purview. So we can see the details of the term are identical. This term has been synchronized from Team Server to Purview. If it was synchronized in the opposite direction, it would be the same. We get the same properties. We can choose which custom properties we synchronize. So here we've got our PII flag, our sensitivity level. We can see the relationships between the terms are the same. So I've got some child objects, which are attributal relationships in Team Server. Earlier on, we were seeing that employee was related to commission payments, business process, department, etc. We've got our synonyms, again, all synchronized between the two tools. So next we're going to talk about logical data models. So Purview itself has no notion of a logical data model. So we've got a feature in the integration that allows us to extend the meta model of Microsoft Purview. Again, hopping across to Purview here, we can see that we've already activated that function, and we've got new object types in Purview. So there's an ER Studio logical model. We've got submodels, we've got entities, we've got attributes, and they can be realized by scanned assets in the physical models of Purview. I'm going to see how that works in a moment. So looking at a logical model in ER Studio Data Architect, we can see we've got some entities here in our model. Our entity employee, it's got some attributes, and entity is linked to a business term that's over in Purview. And we can also see that the logical entity is mapped to some physical tables in the same model. So from one logical model, we've got multiple physical models here, and there's mappings between them. So if we publish this logical model to Purview, this is what we get. So let's go and find the model. Now, what we've got in ER Studio is a logical model documenting a physical asset. So we created a collection in Purview for that asset. So if I hop to this browser view, I can see that I've got physical assets and business assets for this particular collection. So if I focus on the business assets, and I can see I've got one ER Studio logical model representing our HR database. And I can see within that we've got the 4 submodels that we had in ER Studio. And then I can go and see all the different entities. And there is our entity employee that we were just looking at. And again, same information that we've got in ER Studio, same description. There's the mapping to the business term. We've got custom properties that have come from ER Studio, so these might have been attachments in our data architect model. There's the attributes of this entity, all in nice business language. So this is intended for business people to be able to understand. Again, the links back to the submodel. And here's where it's realized by the datasets. This hops across to the physical model, which we're going to look at next. We can navigate the relationships that we've created in ER Studio Data Architect. So we've really got two worlds working together. Purview, which is the data catalog view for business people to be able to find things and get basic information, and then the data architecture view, which gives us more detail on the models. So we can publish logical models for individual data assets. We can also publish the enterprise logical model, and we'll see that in a moment. As we publish our logical models, we can see the mappings of the business terms and any custom properties that we choose to map between the two tools. So next we're going to look at physical data models. So with physical data models, Purview is going to be the system of record. So you can set it up to scan data assets as a one-off or a regular basis. So it's always got the up-to-date view of the data assets. Now, ER Studio is a design tool. So we might have documentation that was done in the past, we might have a future design or a newer version of the model. So what we can do is really use that physical model to add business metadata to an existing scan. So once you've scanned the asset in Purview, you can connect the asset in Purview to the physical model in ER Studio. And then when you hit publish, what it's going to do is overwrite selected custom properties to Purview. It will also add things like the mappings to the business terms, then the mappings back to the logical data model that we were just looking at through that realized relationship. So let's go and look at it. So again, back to the collection we were looking at that's holding the model of our local SQL Server instance. We just looked at the business assets. Now there's the physical assets that have come in through the scan. We can already see some business metadata that's come in from ER Studio. So if we go and look at our EMP table, then again we've got our link back to Team Server, so we can go and look at the diagram of it and the model. We've got our description. We've got the mapping to the business terms that's come from ER Studio. Then we've got our relationship back to the logical model. So there's that realizes relationship we just talked about. So I can hop between the employee entity we were looking at in Purview and this physical table. And the logical entity gives us more business metadata. So we can map an ER Studio physical model to a scanned asset and then publish business metadata back to that asset. So we're not going to change the scanned asset at all, not change the technical metadata that was harvested by Purview, not change the schema at all. We're just adding business metadata. So we can also add the enterprise logical model. And this becomes quite interesting when we're working with data products design. So Purview has been extended recently from being just a simple data catalog to being the start of the data mesh Microsoft Fabric story. The idea is that the organization can be split into domains or subject areas, and each of those domains will then create data products relevant to their area. Now, data mesh is all around decentralizing the design process. So each of those domains can individually create their own data products. But in reality, there are dependencies between them. So standardization across our different domains is really, really important. So the notion of an enterprise model that gives us that sort of standard palette of entities or foundational data products is really important. These are really sort of Lego building blocks that can be plugged together to form aggregate data products. So the enterprise logical model kind of gives you the blueprint for that standardization and which blocks can plug into other blocks. So in Purview, you can create data products, you can map them to business terms which give you the high level requirements. The idea then is that you can then start to design those data products. Now in ER Studio, we can then create a logical model for each data product. We can pull from the enterprise logical model those foundational data products to create an aggregate data product. So we go through the usual design process in ER Studio where you create the logical model, confirm that with a stakeholder. You've now got a nice standardized model. From that logical model, you could then generate physical models, which might become a JSON schema being streamed from a streaming service. You might then go through the design process to create tables in the data warehouse and then use that to design BI reports. So let's go and look at that in practice. So here in Purview, in the new experience, in our data catalog, we've got a section data management. Now, if I look at my business domains, now in this model I've got 3 different business domains. I can go and look at human resources, and I can see for human resources I've got 3 data products. And I can look at the details of my employees' sales commissions data product. So this is a report of all sales commissions awarded to salespeople as a result of selling products. Great. Okay, so the mission that we've got now is we need to be able to design out this data product. So we can see that for the high level requirements, then whoever's created the data product has assigned one glossary term to it, commission payment. Okay, so we've got to design a data product that's going to contain that business term, at least commission payment. So the process we're going to go through is first of all see, well, do I have any kind of standardized entities in my model for commission payment? Now I can do this either in Purview or I can hop across to Team Server. So looking in Team Server, I'm looking for business terms, employee commission. Great, there's that business term we were just looking at in Purview. So I can read all about it. So sensitivity level critical, it's got PII data. Okay, the next question is, does this information live somewhere in our enterprise logical model? So I can hit related ER objects, And I can see immediately that this already lives within my corporate logical data model. If I expand that, I can see there's an entity called commission payment. Great. Okay, so now I can get started on the design for this particular data product. So moving to ER Studio Data Architect, I can open up the enterprise logical model and I can browse through, and I've found the entity commission payment that we're looking for. Now, looking at this model, probably also want information on the employee, information on the commission payment itself. Maybe we also want the information on the orders that were associated with that particular commission payment. So the sort of process I'd go through is really standard ER Studio type behavior. I can create a brand new data model. I can use compare merge to pull in these entities from that data model. And here is the model that I've created. So just those three entities. Normally we go through the same sort of process where we then discuss with whoever created the data product. Here is the design for that data product that you're looking for. Is this what you're looking for? Yes, it is. Okay. Once we've agreed that, then immediately we can publish this to Purview. So if I hop back to Microsoft Purview, I've already attached the data model that we've just created to the data product. So I can view the details of this, see some basic information. And then everything that we were just looking at in ER Studio, I can now see in Purview. So there's the three entities that we were just looking at. I can hop back to ER Studio and see a visual data model diagram associated with this model. And I can see the detail of the entities themselves. So there's the description, there's all the attributes. And then, of course, as I complete the design journey in ER Studio, creating physical models, etc., I can scan those physical models into Purview, map the physical models to the physical design that I've created in ER Studio, and then the loop's complete. We've got nicely documented data products. Okay, so to recap, we can synchronize the business glossaries between ER Studio and Purview. We can seed Purview with a clean business glossary harvested from an enterprise logical data model, for instance. We can then extend the meta model of Purview and publish logical data models from ER Studio to Purview. And this includes designs for data products. As we scan physical data assets into Purview, we can map those to physical data models in ER Studio and then add business metadata to those scanned assets, effectively documenting the physical models, linking them back to logical models, linking them to business terms.